So recently I've been playing a game called House Paint on my phone, and it's basically a game where you paint the house. So you move with a sponge and you have to paint the whole wall before you can go to the next wall. So I wanted to recreate that in Unity, and here are the steps I had to take. So first step was to create a board that I could change in the inspector, so I can just give it a size and it will change. The second stage was to make a script that will move our player inside the bounds of the wall. Third step was to make some obstacles that will be colliding with our player, so if our player moves towards that obstacle, it will block and it has to change the direction. The next step was to make our sponge color the tiles that it passed. And the last step was to make some adjustments. So basically I added the trail and I make the player move more smoothly. So I started with creating some sprites for the game. So I basically created two sprites, which was the sponge and the obstacle, and the rest was just only the square. Later I exported them in Unity and just used them. So I start by creating the script that was responsible for creating the grid. So basically the grid was made of the tiles. Each one was one by one. So I started with creating the struct that basically was holding the data for my board. So basically I just stored the prefab of the tile and also the width and the height of my grid. Later, using that data, I just used the double for loop to create our grid. So in each iteration I just assigned the necessary data and also the position and rotation of each tile. So after that I had to do obstacles. So basically I had a predefined array of obstacles that I can modify in inspector, and I spawned them before spawning the tiles, and later I just spawned the tiles only in the places that were not taken already. Next step was to create a basic movement of our player. So I used a scriptable object to hold my data, and each frame I was checking if I'm pressing left, up, right or bottom arrow. And in that case, if I press it, I just triggered the player movement. So in player movement, I just checked if the direction that I want to go is valid. And if it is, I just start a coroutine. And in that coroutine, I just lerp my player towards the furthest direction that I could go. So thanks to that, I could move our player and it will not collide. It basically would not pass through the obstacles and get the furthest point that it could get. So next step was to create a material which will fill my tile, not instantly but gradually. So this was the most difficult part, at least I thought that way. So in order to achieve that, I had to create a shader which will lerp from one color to the other, and I used a shader graph for it, and basically the shader looks something like this. I followed the tutorial by Wilmer Lin, and I will link that in the description. Basically we have a origin that I could manipulate, and I can move it up and down. So that's how I change my tile filling. And also I could use the booleans to invert the direction that the lerp is going. So later I use that inside my script so I can manipulate it when our player is passing the tile. Okay, so last step was to polish it. So basically I add a smoother moving of our player so it will not be that linear. So I use the animation curve for that, and thanks to that, now if I move our player, it will look more smoothly. So basically in script I just use the function that is called evaluate from the animation curve, and I just took the value from that curve and passed it into our lerp function. And also I made a tray renderer, which was pretty simple, and attached it to our player. So here's my final result. So it looks something similar. You can play with it and modify it. I could take it a step further, but I think that I covered the basic mechanic. I just wanted to know how to do that. So it looks nice, it plays nice, and yeah, I think it turns out okay, guys. What do you think? So if you have any suggestions, guys, for the future videos or future games that you want me to cover mechanics of and do a tutorial, just let me know in the comments. And otherwise, have a nice day and goodbye.